Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? It is Jerome Parker here. For the last 45 minutes, I've thought I've been streaming, and I haven't been streaming. So, for those of you who got my notification a few minutes ago saying that I did a 1 minute and 26-second video, that was a mistake. I apologize for that. I have since deleted that video, and now I am streaming this video. So today we are going to be talking about web push notifications using Laravel 5.4 notification channels. So what is web push notifications? So web push is a new standard with HTML and JavaScript that allows your browser to receive background events. Using these events, you can do things such as background analytics, you can do offline synchronization, you can do push notifications, and more. And push notifications is what we're going to focus on today. So all the major browsers that have implemented push notifications, they give you this endpoint where you're going to push these notifications to. And this acts as a clearinghouse for all web push notifications that you will get across any channel. So there's basically 3 steps on how this works. The first step is you have to register a service worker. And a service worker is a special JavaScript file that executes in the background, just like I said, in the browser. The second thing that you need to do is you need to prompt the user for permission to receive notifications. And if they give you permission, then the last step is to subscribe them to notification events, and you're going to save that on the on the server. So to use this, to make this simpler, we're going to use a helper library that's on the Laravel notification channels GitHub repository, and this is going to be web push. So using this composer library, we'll be able to use the standard notification logic to push these notifications out. One of the requirements for web push is that it has to be served over HTTPS. When you're developing on your local machine, you can use localhost. However, with my setup, I'm using a virtual machine that has about a dozen different applications on there. So I cannot reference my app by localhost. I have to reference it by the host name that I gave it on my virtual machine. And since I have not set up the certificate agents and everything to make HTTPS work, I've gone ahead and spun up an instance on my server, Jerome Parker, webpush.jeromeparker.com, and I have to do my live testing on there. So let me switch over to my display. And here we are at webpush.jeromeparker.com. You can also go to the code. It's on my GitHub. You go to github.com, and it's mastershake08/Laravel web push. So just to give you a quick overview of what this does, you sign in, you enable push notifications, and you'll get notifications. If you have this closed, I'll close this, and I'm gonna send a notification from my phone /API/notification. See again, you can get it. About to sneeze. Oh, awesome. So now that we have that, what am I going to do? Let's go through the code. So, let's start with the client side first. I went ahead and I basically did the basic scaffolding, and I did the PHP artisan make off command to do the login and registration. So I opened up the default home.blade PHP, and I added this button here. And that's all the HTML that I did was I added this button with an on-click event that calls the enable notifications function, and I'll call it enable push notifications. You can see that right here. Can everybody see? Let me pop out this chat. Can everybody see the text well enough? Do I need to make it bigger? If I do, just say so in the chat room. All right. Now, down to the JavaScript. So I told you that basically this application is going to go into three main functions. We're going to register the service worker. We're going to ask for permission, and then we're going to subscribe to a notification and send that notification those details up to the service. I guess you could say four instead of three. The third one I kind of grouped two together. Get this all spaced out. So let's go through the flow here. So on page load, I register the service worker. And then here's the enable notifications function that calls the ask permission. So register service worker right here. You see I have this global registration object. It is set to null from the beginning. The service workers are maintained in the navigator global object. So if you want to register a new service worker, you call the navigator.serviceworker.register function. And can you maximize the front view? Is that good? Is this? Do you need this bigger too? Is that good? Just let me know. Yay or nay. No, it's not what I meant to do. All right. Okay, so we have this navigator service worker register function. It takes in the path to the service worker. It returns a promise. So when the promise resolves, we set this global registration object equal to the registration object that is returned from the promise. Else, if we're unable to return it, we don't return it. So now that that's done, we do the ask permission. So this again, in this function, we're going to return a promise, and then we're going to we're going to call the request permission function on the notification global object, and then we're going to return this result. If okay, so if the permission does not equal granted, we're going to return an error. If it is equal to granted, that means the user has accepted our notification, and we're going to subscribe the user to push. So let's go to subscribe user to push. And the subscribe user to push function, we call this get service worker registration function, which returns a promise. We could tell by that then. When it resolves, we get back this registration object again. And then using this registration object, we create our application server keys, which I'll explain the vapid public key in a second. And after we get our server keys, we can then subscribe to our push manager can now subscribe to the subscription. And then after that happens, we receive our push subscription details, and we can send those details to our backend to save in our database. So moving forward, it's simply a call to our API. It saves our subscription details, takes in the ID of the user, and takes in the endpoint and the keys. If I'm going too fast, let me know. And if I need to explain something, let me know. I'm basically giving a high level in the last two tabs. Last two tabs. Okay. So let me save that. Let me push this. Visual edits. Push. And I already have this hooked up with my Laravel Forge real-time deployment. So anytime I push, it's going to update on the live site. Okay. So if you want to send a push notification with a payload with some data in it, you have to do the server keys. So that's where right here, application server, we're calling this base URL base64 to uint8 array function, and we pass in this vapid public key. So your message payload has to be encrypted, so it can't just be stolen out of the airwaves and used for malicious purposes. So in order to do that, you use this public private key pair using the Vapid protocol, which is just a mathematical function for doing a public and private key to do encryption. I grabbed this code snippet for this URL basics for it to uint8 array from Google, but that basically puts it in the format that the protocol requires. And all of this is on my GitHub, which I will provide a link to after I upload this video. So after you put in these credentials, you're going to get back an object with a subscription object with an endpoint, which is what I was describing earlier, that clearinghouse that you send all of the push notifications to, and from there it delegates what clients to send it to. You get and then you get another public key and private key, basically that's associated with that particular user. So that's everything for the main JavaScript part. Now let's look at the service worker. So inside of my public JavaScript folder, I have this service worker.js. And the service worker uses this self identifier. It's kind of like this in other programming languages. So here we're going to add an event listener for push. We're going to listen for a push event. And so if we get the event, we can get the data from that event by calling event.data. And then this data is going to have JSON. So if I want to get that JSON data, I'm going to initialize it in a data variable, event.data.json. And then after I get this, I want to show a notification, calling the self.registration.show notification function. And this takes in a title and some options. And in these options, you can put a body and you can put an icon. So title, the body of the message, and an icon. Now notice I'm on a Mac right now, and Mac OS desktop notifications do not yet support icons because Apple hasn't implemented it yet. But if you're on Android mobile, or you're on Linux or Windows desktop mobile, you'll see these icons. and then I'm just basically logging the data. And that's all there is to the service worker. So let us, before I do that, let me service workers, Chrome settings. Let me get rid of the notifications and service workers that I have on the app already, so you can see it. And privacy, we got content settings. We are going to go to notifications, and I want to turn off web push, or get rid of web push. And then, okay. All right, cool. So let me turn on my developer tools so you can see in the console what's going on. We're going to service workers successfully registered. That's good. And then we push notifications. Let me make this bigger. As big as I can make it. Webpush.droneparker.com wants to show notifications. You click allow, and here we get the service worker registration object. We get the push subscription. We have the endpoint, which is this Google API endpoint. We have our keys. We have our P256DH key, and we have our auth key, which is like our key and our token. I don't know if you saw or not. I'm gonna do it again in a second, but a push notification came up here. You can see it has the title. This is a random web push. Body, the time is and it shows the date time of my server, and then the icon, which wouldn't show because we are on Mac OS. But let me to show you the backend side. So this is great. This is fine, but it's only part of it. So this is the client side. Now let's head over to the API side, the backend. The first thing we have to do is we need to import our library. So we're gonna Laravel web push. Web push. Web push. All right. So you're gonna run this command in your browser. I've already done all this, so it's just gonna spit an error saying it's already installed. So composer require Laravel notification channels web push, and then in your config app, which is right here, config app, you put the service provider in the array. And after you run that composer command and add that, then go over to your user. You add this trait, this new web push has push subscriptions trait, and you add it to your user class. And this is how the notification channels are going to interact with the users and send them the push notifications. Now after that, we have a couple of things we have to do. We need to publish the migrations, which can be done using this artisan command. And I'm going to post a link to this repository too in the description. So you can click on the description and see the link for yourself. So basically, going to run this migration policy, this migration export, and it's going to give you all the migrations needed for the Laravel channels. Okay. Then after that, you're going to run your artisan migrate. It's going to migrate all the tables, and then you're going to if you want to, it's optional. You can publish the config file. But the thing that is really important is you need to generate your Vapid keys. So you're going to run this PHP artisan web push Vapid command, and it's going to set your Vapid public key and your private key in your env file. So we're going back. So that is where this comes into play. It grabs the private key. So after you've done that part, the next thing to do is to generate a new notification. So what I did is I ran this PHP artisan make notification, and I called that notification generic notification. I've already created that command, so I'm not going to redo it. But if you hit enter, create a new notification in your app notifications folder. We have to add the web push channel and web push message name imports in our use statements. In the via function, instead of using mail, we're going to use web push channel class. I got rid of everything else in here, and instead of having a toMail function, I have toWeb push. And what I do here is I grab the time, I create a new message with the title. This is a random web push. The icon, I downloaded some icon off the web, and I'm passing the URL to that. And then the body, and the body is the time is time, and it puts in this time variable. One of the cool things that you can do with push notifications is that you can give users actions. So let's say that you're creating an app in your a stock trading app, and you set notifications on Facebook. So buy Facebook stock if the what is current Facebook stock? All right, it's at 150. Gosh. So if it drops below 150, you might want to get a notification, and it says Facebook stock has dropped below $150. Would you like to buy? Yes or no? And then you can have a yes option and a no option. If they click yes, it can go ahead and buy it. If it clicks no, then it'll exit out. We're not doing anything in this tutorial with actions. I'm gonna leave that as homework for you, but you can add actions. And then you also can add notification IDs, and this is good if you want to group IDs, if you're trying to resend specific IDs and stuff of that nature. Who is this? Oh, dang. What's up, man? I didn't realize it's you. Let me get back up on there. Can I explain web push one more time? Yeah, so web push is a protocol it's an HTTP protocol. So what it does is it allows websites to send events to your browser in the background. So normally before web push came out, if you needed any kind of real time data or any thing of the like, you had to have the tab open and you had to have janky workarounds. But with this, this is can make web apps what are called progressive web apps. So let's think about a native mobile app for a second. When you open up a native mobile app and you don't have internet, what happens? The app, if the app is implemented correctly, it's not going to crash. It hopefully it's already downloaded some material in the background and cached it, so you have something to look at until you have internet. It might tell you, hey, you're in offline mode, but you still have an app. You still have an app experience, even if it's limited. Now, before this came along for websites, if you didn't have internet, the website would crash. You'll say could not reach. So one of the uses for web push is that you can have your website do background synchronization. So let's say I'm making a news reader app, okay? In the background when I'm not using it, the server could be sending to my browser events to download 10 articles at a time per se. So now let's say I'm on the subway train, I'm in California, I'm trying to take the BART, go to San Francisco. I don't have any data when I'm in the tunnels, but I can still pull out my phone, go to my newsreader website, and it'll still work because the web push implementation downloaded data in the background, put it in an index DB on the JavaScript side, and so I can read from the local machine without having internet, and I can still read those news articles, the ones that I've downloaded. So that's all, and that's all possible because of web push. And another thing you can do with web push is push notifications, which is what I just showed. So I don't have to have the tab or the browser open. In fact, I don't think I have it open. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna close that out. Okay. So you notice that I don't have my webpush.jeromeparker.com website up anymore. Go back up to the chat. So I can request to send a new notification. Now look up here in the top right hand corner. Boom. I got a push notification because I just triggered it from my phone. And the cool thing about it is that web push notifications go across all platforms. They go across desktop, tablet, mobile. If you know, you can have them implemented in anything that can support a modern web browser. So, and another thing you can do with web push, for example, is like background analytics. So, a website can um, periodically request data from the people who use the web service. So it'll just in the background say, hey, what time, how many times have you been to this website, or what have you, and your browser will send that information without having to bother you. So does that make sense? Does that help clarify? And another thing with web push is that, so like I said, each browser. So let's take Google Chrome. Google Chrome has an endpoint that everybody has to use. It's fcm.googleapis.com slash blah 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 blah. So instead of this website, webpush.jeromeparker.com, instead of my browser having to listen to webpush.jeromeparker.com and listen to facebook.com and listen to weather.com and all these websites that do web push, it only has to listen to the fcm.googleapis.com slash whatever whatever. Cool. I'm glad that I helped. Cool. Yeah, so web push, like I said, was really it's really the barrier that kind of made web apps almost on par with mobile apps. So now, see, you really only need native mobile apps if you're doing really, really, really specific things that you really just can't do on web. But I would say 80% of web apps can be 80% of native apps can be done in progressive web apps. So so I hope that breaks it down. Do you have any more questions before I continue to this next part? And if not, then I'll just go ahead. So we created the vapid public and private keys. And lastly, we did the generic notification. We need to make the routes. So the last part on the front end side is after you get the subscription, you need to send it to the server to save in the database. So when you send your notification, it knows who to send it to. So like I said, like I showed you before on the thing, developer tools, console, push. All right. So you see right here. Oops. You see right here, I have endpoint, and there's SCM Google. I have my keys, and I have P256DH, and I have auth. I'm going to grab the keys in the endpoint, and I'm going to send that up to the server. And that's what I'm going to do in this API routes file, save subscription ID. This ID is going to be the ID of my user. I'm going to find that user, and then I'm going to call this update push subscription function, which we got as a result of using that composer package that we downloaded previously. I'll say you're doing a great job. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot, Dames. Where was I? Cool. So in this update push subscription, it takes in an endpoint, it takes in the key and the auth token, and I grab that from the request. So I do request input endpoint keys.p256dh and keys.auth. And if you're wondering why I'm doing keys dot, is because we passed in JSON as in the request, so I can access the JSON variables by using dot notation. So after that subscription has been saved, we can notify the user using our newly created generic notifications that I just went over here. And so that's how we save the subscription. And then from then point out, we can just do a GET request to the send notification ID, which just finds the user and just sends the notification. Now, this is, like I said, the most basic generic form of using notifications. In a production app, you'll obviously have more logic to customize what the message would say. You might even want to change the icon. For example, if you're writing a chat web app, you might want to have the icon be the user profile picture of the person who last sent the message. Things like that. So you have to be aware and think of those best practices. And honestly, outside of reading them, experience is going to teach you these things. But that is honestly it. I mean, as you can see, it already works. Let me go back to. Let me put the link here in the chat room, and we got people in the chat. So this is the link to the code on GitHub, and this is the link to the actual web app that I'm working on right now. And you can look at both of those. Other than that, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, this is more or less it. I would like you guys to try to do some homework. Try making the notifications. For example, make this generic notification take in a constructor for the title and the body. Screw it, we can do it real quick. Public title body. All over my body. All right. Title body. We got this title equals title, and this body equals body. So now we can do this title, this body, and we're gonna have to modify this and put in a request request. We could still make it a get, I suppose. No, let's make it a post. Let's make this a post. And then we're gonna be request title, request body, and then here we'll just put welcome to web push you will now get all of our push notifications. Let's save this bad boy. And then we're going to do constructor. And we're going to go here. We're going to go here. Go here. Welcome to Web Push. You will now get all of our push notifications. Yay! All right, now let's do Hurl it. We're gonna do a post request. We're gonna do HTTPS webpush.jeromeparker.com/API/send notification/1 because that's my user ID. We're gonna add parameters. We're gonna add title. I am freaking, or I am that dude. Add body. You know I am awesome. I'm not a robot. Oh my god. Vehicle. Alright. I am that dude. You know I am awesome. Besides updating in the background. That's another thing too. It automatically updates and stuff for you. It's pretty freaking cool. Any questions? If not, then I think we've had a really good, productive stream. Like I said, guys, play around with it. You can find it at github.com/mastershake08/web Laravel web push. You can find the actual app at webpush.jeromeparker.com. I will also have links to these on the blog, which I will do tomorrow. Finish up the blog tomorrow. But if you haven't already, subscribe. Leave comments below if you loved it, you hated it, you have any suggestions on future videos. I welcome any and all critique and comments. So thank you guys, and you enjoy yourselves and the rest of your night.